What is up, Mountaineer Nation, fellow college hoops fans, Big 12 fans, whoever's watching? Not a good night to be a Mountaineer, wherever you may be. West Virginia drops its second bye game of the year, 66-65, to former Mountaineer player, now Radford coach Darius Nichols and his Highlander team. It's not a good look. I mean, and they lost it in heartbreaking fashion too, with a last-second shot with a guy falling backwards. And I told my family who was watching, I said, if this team's not cursed, curses don't exist. I've never seen a team with this much bad luck in my entire life. Paul, take it away, man.
I see people in the comments blaming Josh Eilert, man. He's got an impossible situation here. How can you? I challenge you to find a coach that could win with what's happened. I'm sure there are things he could do better, but man, for a rookie coach to try, it's just an impossible situation.
Mm-hmm.
I know people want to find somebody to blame, but this is a circumstantial thing, man. Really, more than anything, you've got a cook who's obviously not 100%. Yeah, RaeQuan Battle, who, even though he had a great game, wasn't 100%.
Nope.
And you just added 3 players to the roster, literally. This is the first time they played together ever at the same time.
In a game, yes.
And then you just removed, this is the first time ever on record that they played together.
Yeah.
So, and then you remove, the second leading blocker in the Big 12 from your defense. So, there's a lot of things here. The last shot, it should have been a travel. He actually rolled the ball forward to himself. But of course, we don't get those calls. I titled this thing "Snake Bitten." I thought that was pretty fitting for how we feel on this side of things. It's almost like the way football felt has flopped over into basketball now. Like when we were losing all those transfers, this last offseason, but the one before it, I felt like it was never going to end. And like I used to dread waking up and looking at the news every day. That's how it feels with this team. And it's wild because this team, obviously hasn't gelled at all. They're a lot better than they've shown. I will continue to say that. They are defensively deficient, no doubt about that. Especially without Cook being 100%. Sumanik is a liability, and without Edwards on the floor. You can go down the list. Kirk Risa is a deficient defender. RaeQuan Battle wasn't 100% today. Noah Farrakhan is a very small-ish kind of guy, so you can get mismatches up on him. Cook is obviously not 100%. I think I already said that, though. And then you look at the rest of the squad, and they're all basically B-team guys, so when they're in there, if they're playing against any level of starter, they get mismatches. This is the third or fourth big in a row from a team. It's mid-major teams that have better bigs than we do around the rim, scoring and rebounding. So while we can't, everything the way it happened to these guys, it all blew up in the middle of the summer. Obviously, there's nothing we can do about it. But I wish instead of going out and getting, maybe a Jeremiah Bembry, they would have grabbed another big just from somewhere or something. But it's easy to criticize that.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, this is a pretty bad basketball team right now. I think they have the potential to be a lot better than they've shown. We've seen it in spurts. But unfortunately, I don't think we're so far behind the 8 ball. It doesn't seem like we're going to be able to really see what this team could have been.
Right. Agreed. And Jeremy, you're right. Rebounding is a huge issue for this team. No doubt about it. Absolutely no doubt about it. And Josh Eilert told us that before the season started that rebounding was one of their biggest weaknesses. But I think it's been even worse than he anticipated. But it definitely is a weakness. And I was sitting on the couch watching the game, talking to my family, and I was thinking, matter of fact, I said it out loud. I said, you know what, though? When you go out and recruit a bunch of offensive players, you can't expect to be a good defensive. And I'm talking defense now, not rebounding. But you can't expect to be a good defensive team when you go out and recruit a bunch of offensive superstars who aren't that great defensively. And I'm not saying those guys you shouldn't get those guys, but there has to be some balance here, you know? I mean, your best defensive player was on the bench. Good point. And why'd they leave?
It all blew up in the middle of the Bob Huggins situation.
Correct.
So I mean, it's just unfortunately they just don't have a choice with all this.
That's a fair point. Joe Toussaint was an elite on-ball defender.
Yeah,
he split. The other best on-ball defender we got is Kobe, and he's I guess they feel like he's too much of a detriment offensively to be in the game, apparently. Which I'm not sure.
They just wanted to get this new trio running, you know. I think that's what it was all about.
Well, he lost a game because of it, potentially.
It's one game. It's the first game.
I get it.
Game, you know.
But I mean, I did some quick math before we got on here, and they basically have to go 14-6 the rest of the way to get in the NCAA tournament. 14-6, playing in the toughest conference in America. I don't see it happening. Not saying it's impossible. It would be a miraculous turnaround for them to get in the tournament right now. I mean, they're 4-7. I figure they have to win at least 18 probably to get in the tournament. I would have said 17, but because they have 2 bad losses, if not 3 now on their resume. I think they need to win at least 18, if not more, to get in. And I think at the very minimum, they probably need to go 14-6 the rest of the way, and that would put them with an 18 and 18-13 record. So,
just say it out loud. If you just say it out loud to me, just say it all out loud. I mean, Bob Huggins gets fired, right? And that's not even the beginning of the issues. The roster gets blown up. Cook basically has a heart attack on the floor. Jesse Edwards has broken his hand. Kirk Creasy was suspended for 9 games. We have a court battle going on that is basically unprecedented. And then you add an extra piece you don't even expect to get, who hasn't been practicing. And then by the way, you all have your roster left in the middle of the night, because of the situation.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody could succeed with all that. I don't care who it is.
Thank you for cleaning that one up. I saw it coming. But you're right. That's why I'm not pissed. Was I aggravated? I was absolutely aggravated at the end of that game. But am I pissed off at this team? Absolutely not. I'm not, because they're being asked to do something. I actually feel bad for them almost, because they've been put in an impossible situation that they didn't really cause. Now they're not going to use it as an excuse. They're not going to go out here and say, well, we've been put in a bad spot. No, they're going to say, hey, we got to do better. We got to win more games. They're going to put it on themselves, and that's what they should do. But as a fan, I'm sitting back looking, going, my God, how many more things can go wrong for this team? I mean, every team they play seems to have a guy who shoots has the game of his life shooting. Now, that didn't happen tonight necessarily, but in past games it has. I mean, we faced a guy the other night. I don't remember which game it was. A guy was averaging 26% or something from the floor from 3, and I think he shot 50% or something. I mean, just uncanny stuff that doesn't happen on a normal. It doesn't happen, it seems, to any other team in the country. Let's just be honest. So, but again, I still think that it doesn't look good for Josh, even though I don't blame him for this. I feel like the worse this thing spirals out of control, the more the administration is going to see a need to change gears and just try to flush this whole season out and start anew. Maybe I'm wrong.
Unfortunately, yeah. And unfortunately, guys like Jay Kuntz and Josh Eilert, Deshaun Butler, these kids that we love that are Mountaineer legends, are going to be basically the expense of that,
Yeah.
At
and
the
I hate
expense of those decisions.
It sucks, but I think that's I want what's best. At the end of the day, I want what's best for the program. And Ren Baker, so far, every hire he's made has been a home run, right? And most decisions he's made have been right, and I trust him. So, real quick, let's look at some stats. First, let's give a shout out to our sponsor before we forget to do that. Paul, I'll let you start, brother.
This episode of Hoops in the Hills is brought to you by Dutch Miller Automotive, where friends and family pricing means you get the best deal right up front on any new or pre-loved vehicle in stock every time.
With brands like Chevrolet, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Kia, Hyundai, Ford, GMC, Buick, and Subaru, the Dutch Miller Automotive family is always growing and ready to put you in the car or truck you've been searching for.
Check out our inventory across West Virginia at DutchMillerAuto.com or come in today to the home of friends and family pricing, only at a Dutch Miller Automotive store near you.
All right, we got the housework out of the way. Want to thank you guys for being here, first of all. Aaron Rifle Fishing, or Riffle Fishing, I guess. Had to rewind to the start. Paul, RaeQuan, 29 points and not 100%. That's right.
Yeah, he's absolutely not 100%. He's down 15 pounds from the flu that he's been suffering for the last 2 weeks.
That's how good he is.
I mean, you can look at it like that for sure, but he jacked up 22 shots and made 9. So, I mean, it was more of a volume type night.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? To me personally, Noah Farrakhan was 6 of 9 or 6 of 8 at one point. I thought he should have had more shots. He was more on the night than RaeQuan was. That's just me. But I think Noah got the moment and thought that that RaeQuan needed this for some reason. It's just my gut feeling. I don't know this, but I think he was deferring to Noah or their names to RaeQuan. It's how it looked to me a little bit tonight. They were just trying to get RaeQuan going. He's been sick. To me, Noah looked terrific. I think Noah could start for any team in the country, man. I love that kid's game.
Mm-hmm. I agree, man. He's so fluid out there, man. He just looks smooth. He's quick. Heck, he led the team in rebounds tonight from the guard spot. Unbelievable. Let's look at some stats real quick here. If I can find them, get them pulled up here as we're talking. Team stats. Here we go. Here we go. Field goals. West Virginia was 41%. Radford 37%. 3-point percentage. West Virginia was 4 of 21. 19%. Not going to get it done. Radford was 7 of 29. Not much better. But 3 more made threes made a big difference in this game. Foul shots. West Virginia 11 for 17. 64%. Not going to get it done. Radford 9 of 12. Rebounds. West Virginia cannot keep getting beat on the glass by this kind of margin to inferior opponents. 46 to 38 total rebounding. West Virginia won the assist battle 12 to 10, 5 to 5 in steals, 4 to 3 in favor of Radford in blocks, even 7 in turnovers. And you guys see them there. Points in the paint, 34 to 30 in favor of West Virginia. Radford committed 17 fouls to West Virginia's 12. And in points in the paint, West Virginia actually won that battle 34 to 30, but it was mostly because of penetration to the rim by Noah Farrakhan and RaeQuan Battle. Quinn Slazinski had a really rough night shooting the basketball. It seems to me like he's the one who's his game has taken a step back with the addition of these guys. It's knocked him out of his rhythm that he had going, to me.
Agreed, 100%.
Back to the chemistry thing you mentioned.
Well, he was basically playing a guard role.
Mm-hmm.
It's in a lot of ways, you know. So
right.
I mean, Slazinski's not the type of 6'9" guy that gets you a bunch of rebounds at all.
Yeah. For a lot of you folks watching have played basketball before. You understand this. Basketball, man, chemistry. You can practice together every day, but until you get in a game situation, it's not the same. It's not the same thing. The pace is faster. It's more stressful. There's more things going on. It's just totally different deal. And until these guys get a few games under their belt together, it's going to be a struggle. I don't care how talented they are as individuals. There's chemistry that has to be created here, and you only do that by playing games. Unfortunately, or I should say, you got to find a way to win these games, and unfortunately, West Virginia hasn't been able to do that yet. Let's look at some individual. Go ahead.
We just agree to disagree, man. That's all I know to say.
Well, on what part?
I was talking about the guy in the comment.
Oh, I'm sorry. I wasn't looking at the screen. I was looking at the ESPN screen. I got you.
Right. He said it wasn't a volume shooting night. He was 8 of 19 at one point and missed his last 2 shots.
But yeah, and I saw some people mad at RaeQuan for missing that free throw. Guys, this game without RaeQuan, this game's not even close. So I'm just not going to do that to the young man. With what he's been through, I am not putting that on him. Absolutely not. Let's look at some individual. What's that?
Short-sighted thinking.
Yeah, well, we're emotional. We're fans. We get emotional after these games,
Right.
and I've done it. I'm guilty of it too. Let's look at some individual statistics. Radford, their leading scorer on the night was Smith with 18. Giles had 12. Archer had 12. Leading rebounder was Archer, who had 11 rebounds, so he had a double-double. We seem to be giving up a lot of double-doubles this year. West Virginia, RaeQuan Battle, 29 points off 9 of 22 shooting, 7 of 10 from the line, 1 of 2 from 3. I'm sorry, 1 of 8 from 3. Farrakhan was 1 of 2 from 3. And was 7 of 10 from the line. He had 16 points. And then leading rebounder on the night again was Farrakhan with 8 or 7 rather. And then with assists, Kerr Creasa had 6 assists, only 3 points for Kerr tonight. I think he needs to score more than that for this team to win. But again, he didn't get a lot of shots. I mean, he only shot the ball 4 times. So,
well, when you're trying to get rhythm, if there's enough scores on this team besides him now, where if he can get into the role that he's used to being in. Unfortunately, the lobs, he loves to throw lobs, and he tried a couple with RaeQuan. Obviously, assuming it couldn't get up there and get the one that he threw to him, that would have been a dunk with a Cook or Jesse out there. Without Jesse, unfortunately, it just throws a wrench in it all, because the role he really has, obviously, is distributing the ball out of from crazy angles, at different odd intervals, and it's just, I think they were trying to work that tonight, practice that. Maybe you're 100% right. It would be good if he could score too, but maybe tone it back just a little bit and try to score a little bit more, But I don't know the answer. Like somebody else mentioned, this is the most inexperienced coaching staff in the country, and they just haven't experienced this before. There's no substitute for coaching experience, and this squad does not have it outside of Josh.
Yep.
Really. So
yeah. Paul, this brings up a question.
Assistant coaching experience.
Yeah.
So,
real quick. Let me finish out the stats and then I'll ask my question. Obviously, one glaring thing that we'll see, and I want to give a shout out to Jeremy Croy, who's probably in the chat right now, but he texted me earlier and said Kobe hadn't played, and I hadn't even noticed it, to be honest. Kobe Johnson didn't even step on the floor tonight. Now, I don't know if he's sick or if he's just buried in the depth chart, but that is fascinating to me. He went from having some of the most minutes on the team to not playing at all. Kind of makes me wonder if maybe he wasn't feeling well. Maybe he's dealing with an injury. I don't know. Because Seth Wilson played at least 5 minutes. Ofri Nove had 12. JoJo had 17, and Pat Sumnick had 17. But as you see, most of the minutes went to the starting 5 right there.
I think it was a choice, but I don't know that. I think it was they're trying to get these 3 guys going and get them the most minutes possible. And at the expense, he's basically the expense of that decision. And also, why would you put Kobe on the floor when you could put Noah or Ray on the floor? And I think that's basically or Kerr.
Yeah.
You could. I mean, the defensive part of that is a valid point, but I think this was all about getting the chemistry of the team as fast as possible. I just think that was the goal.
Maybe before they get into league play. Maybe that's the strategy.
Even in a loss, yeah. I mean, you've got a couple more games to try to get it right. And all they got to do is win one, and a lot of this goes away, and they can get on some type of run.
Yeah. This team's got the talent to win basketball games. I mean, it does. It's there. They've just got to put it together. And I saw there were times tonight in the first half when I thought the defense was pretty decent. Radford was moving the ball well. I saw a lot of guys switching on screens. I saw a lot of guys staying with their man. I saw a lot of good rotations. But now that some of that fell apart in a second later in the game. But I think it's a matter of getting minutes together and building chemistry and getting used to playing for this staff. And the problem is, do they have enough time? That's the issue. And I saw a comment in there. Somebody said they feel sorry for Ray because they feel like it's going to be a wasted season. I don't think it'll be a wasted season in his eyes. He wants to play ball, and he wants to try to do everything he can for his teammates. And at the end of the day, it's also about putting some things on film for his own personal growth and his future to try to play in the NBA. I mean, that has a lot to do with this too. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's not selfish at all. It's just that's what he's trying to do.
You said you had a question.
Oh yeah, with the and a matter of fact, it kind of segues from that. Do you think RaeQuan and or Noah would have been better off just waiting and playing next year versus dealing with this?
That's so hard of a question to answer. There's so many facets that. I mean, if you're talking about the individual player, yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
But just because they're so far behind the 8 ball, if they could all start a game 1 together, then no. But unfortunately, that's not been the case. If you're talking about the program, well, I believe very, very, very much that neither will be here next year, regardless the way this is looking. Josh is not coming back. I mean, it's just we need to accept that, guys. At least begin to start without some kind of miracle happening, right? And that means the thing's getting blown up, the coach is leaving, everybody gets a freebie to leave, and they probably will take that freebie unless NIL money comes into play to keep a RaeQuan a Noah Farrakhan or a Slazinski maybe if he's got another year, I can't remember. But so and then it depends on the next coach, obviously too. But so that's kind of a multiple answers for one question.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. I want to address this. BPA 1985 says the coaching staff is on Eilert. He put it together, and that's fair. That's a fair criticism. I have no issue with that criticism whatsoever. But it is what it is at this point.
He could have hired some experience, didn't he? But he didn't.
Yeah, I mean they do have the one coach, James Dickey, I think's his name, that's experienced, but that's it. The rest are young, and I do see him in Eilert's ear a lot in games. I don't know if y'all have noticed that or not, but a lot of times at timeouts, I'll see James Dickey coming up and whispering something in Josh Eilert's ear. So it seems like Eilert is listening to him, so that's good. Guys, if you we got a lot of people in here. If you want to make sure you get what you want to say, put on the screen and addressed, drop a super chat, hit the $sign near the chat box or in the chat box. Drop your comment with a donation. It'll highlight it for us and put it in a special column so we see it. There's no way for us to address every single comment, guys, but that's a way you can make sure yours is addressed. And it's also a way you can support our show here at Who's from the Hills. Other than that, if you want to support the channel free, guys, you can always hit the thumbs up button. The comments help. They do that. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Most of you here probably are, but if you haven't, don't forget to subscribe and let people know about Couz's Corner. I mean, about Who's from the Hills. It's hard to get these channels, get my brain switched from one to the other. But let people know about Who's from the Hills, guys. A lot of people don't understand, still don't know that we exist. I talk to people all the time who are familiar with our football channels, but are still not aware of this basketball channel. So let them know about it, if you don't mind. It is bad for West Virginia basketball, Brennan, but it's only temporary, my brother. It's only temporary. I trust Ren Baker is going to get this thing turned around, whether it's with Josh or somebody else. I trust these guys. And I'm willing, Bob Huggins, unfortunately, dealt us a tough hand here as a fan base and as a program. And I trust Ren to get it turned around, to bring in the right people. He did what he had to do in a short period of time by bringing Josh in. That was kind of the only choice he had at that point, but at this point, we gotta roll with it. But I think what I was getting to is, based on the situation we've been dealt, I think in the long term, we're going to be okay.
Yeah, I mean, we have to be.
Yeah.
You know, here's how I feel. You've only got to field, you really only got to have 7 to 8 good players in basketball to win. And it's nice to have more, but teams win it all with 7 to 9 man rotations all the time. And you don't have to have a star at every position. You just have to know how to build a team, right? And similar to what Dusty May is kind of the best example right now. What they have at FAU, they've got a couple star players, but they've got role players that really know their role and are upper end role players. But if you bring the right guy in that knows how to do that, West Virginia, especially on the basketball side, has enough NIL support to field a top flight basketball team. We have
Mm-hmm.
the cash. We have the cash available to pay for good players
Mm-hmm.
in basketball. It's not football, where you have to have 11 on each side of the ball, and they all need to be studs at every position. You got to have, you got to have an upper, at least an average player at every position in football. You know, to not be having glaring weaknesses out there in basketball. You really only need 5. I mean, and not all those have to be stars, like we said. So I think that's something to look forward to. Obviously, what we've been doing in the trust over the last month or so has been encouraging. It's only going to grow. And if we get the right guy in, the donors will come, especially with somebody they support, like a
Mm-hmm.
Dusty May or whoever. I don't really know if Dusty May would leave there for here or not, but that's just an example.
Right. Absolutely.
So
And
to me, that's why I think there's a bright future.
yeah. G Smyrna 746 says, yes, they should have waited till next year. But the only problem, I'm talking about Farrakhan and RaeQuan, obviously. Only problem with that is Eilert won't be here next year, so they leave probably anyway. Yeah, great point. Great point.
We'll get somebody else, though. Players we'll get.
Yeah. Matthew Watkins says, what's up, guys? What have I missed? Basically, Matthew, just to summarize it, I went over the stats. RaeQuan Battle had 29 points off of 9 of 22 shooting tonight. A very good first game back, and he's not even 100% yet. So future looks bright there. Noah Farrakhan had another good night. He had double-digit scoring night as well. Quince Lazinski struggled. There's a chemistry issue on this team because of adding the new pieces. And Paul and I don't think this is Josh Eilert's fault. You can't really pin this on him because he and this staff and this program has been handed I'll just say it, they've been handed a shit sandwich. And they're trying to make something good out of it, man. And it's tough to do. It's tough to do. I mean, that's it in a nutshell, isn't it, Paul? I mean, that's a good. Is that a summary? Good summary?
It's a good summary, man. Unfortunately, chemistry issue.
Yeah, and Curtis, I'm worried about that too. They're struggling in the paint right now. Look, Cook's a good player, but he's not really a true 5. He's more of a 4, and he doesn't have the body, the size, the girth to go up against some of these bigger, more physical 5s. And let's be honest, Jesse don't either. We don't have a guy. I'll be honest with you. We really could use a guy like a Jimmy Bell right now, couldn't we? To go along with.
We could use any of the bigs we lost,
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of Jimmy Bell, he's killing it at Mississippi State right now, by the way. But anyway, guys, I don't really have a whole lot left to say, guys. I mean, it is what it is. West Virginia lost a bye game to Radford. I mean,
you have to tell me brutality.
I'm sure that'll be on X tonight by is it John Rothstein? I think that puts that out there.
Mm-hmm.
Epitome of brutality. West Virginia lost a bye game to Radford. Paul, do you have any parting words for these kind folks before we call it a night?
I mean, no, not really. It sucks, right? And at the end of the day, I think we can be problem-oriented as fans, or we can be solution-oriented. And it's all up to us what we talk about with it. It's real easy to get stuck and focused on why the things are happening. But there's also another option, and that is to make suggestions as fans, even though we can't employ those suggestions, it's still more helpful than just sitting there and tearing other people down, right? So that's kind of how I'll try to look at it. Everybody's critical of things, but at some point it begins to be just wow, drone on in my head. So I would like to try to just post some good suggestions for the team, man, and talk about the positive things we can. So during all this, because it's all so negative.
Yeah. Big John, you're right. And I will say, Curtis, go watch Ollie Ragab's tape. Watch some highlights.
It's horrible. It's really he's
That'll answer
truly
your
not
question.
a Division I player, guys. I know I just said what I said about the negativity, but this is just being truthful and honest with Ragab. He was truly just brought in for somebody for Jesse to lean on and learn how to play in the post. If you go watch the guys in tape, and it's easy to find, you'll see he wouldn't play at Marshall. He wouldn't play at Old Dominion. I doubt he would play, at Duquesne. I seriously, he's pretty deficient. It's a size thing with him.
Yeah, agreed. John, great point, man. Need to give a shout out to the women's team. I think they're either 10-0 or 11-0 right now.
The Wichita State game was a nail biter.
Doing fantastic. They should be ranked in the top 25, but they're not. But they'll get there if they keep winning. That team's doing great things. They had a 5-star recruit on campus the other day. That women's team is killing it right now. Hats off to Mark Kellogg and his staff.
Too.
And they do. They had a lot. They've had a lot of help through NIL. That's where people have specified it go to, specifically to the women's program. So they're killing it.
Did you remember the amount?
Yes, I did. It's 10 figures. I mean, 8 figures, right?
10 million.
Yep. So
somebody gave the women's basketball team $10 million. So, which has been a while back now, but it's designated over like 7 years or 5 years. But it's more than enough in the women's game to, unless you're talking about the top of the top, like Angel Reese, like she's getting she's getting as much as some men or more. Anyway, we'll be able to really get some top flight women on there.
Right. Absolutely.
So,
well, guys, we're going to cut this one short tonight. Don't really have a whole lot left to say. We appreciate everybody jumping on here. Let's look at, the West Virginia football team's doing some good things right now. Let's be positive about that. Let's continue to support this basketball team, even though it's tough sometimes, and just cheer these young men on and support the team and try to stay positive, even though I know it's hard as a fan to do that sometimes. I'm guilty of it myself. Paul, I'm assuming you don't have anything else to say? Guys, thank you again for tuning in. Thanks for everybody in the chat room. Thanks for keeping it active tonight. We're done. Good night.